hospital, we see vivid religious imagery in the form of the Lady of the Door. The note which goes along with the lady reads as is seen below. She is an angel no one knows. Only I can see the Lady of the Door. They cannot walk along her bridge of thread. They fall from the weight of their crimes. Like bloated and ugly corpses, their sins, she devours them, sin and sinner alike. She saves me. She is an angel. It's significant that this note is written in much the same way that Joseph's notes are, lacking sentence structure, punctuation, and capitalization, but it is also more coherent than his later notes. This must have been written early in his hospitalization. Again, we have Joseph fixating on what only he can see, either as part of his delusions, or as a person capable of seeing the fog/other world. But he also refers to her as an angel that saves him. The way through this doorway is to find 2 rings, lead and copper, in the hospital and place them on the lady's hand. The significance of the 2 rings is obvious. 2 rings to Mary, 1 for the bride and groom. But the poem alludes to a scene that sounds more like judgment and damnation than a marriage ceremony. The juxtaposition of the language is intriguing. The woman is an angel, but she devours corpses. Of course, angels in biblical lore are much more vicious and bloodthirsty than popular culture often portrays them, so this language really isn't that surprising. The painting itself evokes a great deal of religious imagery. She's a woman wearing a veil over her hair with her head down, reaching out her arms. There is guilt in her bearing, in how she lowers her head, but there is salvation as well in the hands reaching out as if to guide. There are many other women behind her, all of whom have an almost holy appearance. Angels are not evoked in Silent Hill often, so I attempted to cross-reference this figure with the lore of the series to make connections. In Silent Hill 2, Angela is the only other prominent angel, but she is not connected to the town. The song Angels Thanatos is the ending theme for In Water, Thanatos being a god of death. In 2, the only connections with angels is death, and the strongest connection is with suicide. The angel of the door is an angel of judgment. She judges men and they fall off her bridge of thread from the weight of their crimes. The thread is significant in Greek myth. The fates would cut the threads of a person's life to kill them. The scene itself feels like a marriage, with the religious figure barring the way of 2 people, James and Maria, and only allowing them passage, marrying them, by the exchange of rings. But judgment is occurring as well, judgment of the crimes of the 2 exchanging rings. The rings themselves are twisted things. One is found in a refrigerator, which can only be opened once James is with Maria. It must be done as a team, or as in marriage. Only 2 people can open the fridge to get the ring. That particular ring, the lead one, is marked with a bloated, ugly corpse, symbolizing death. The other has a spider, which relates to the bridge of fate one must cross when the Lady of the Door judges them. A spider would easily be able to pass over the bridge. Symbolically, one ring could represent success and the other failure in terms of the judgment. Spiders could also relate to the concept of the Black Widow, or the dangerous sexual woman, which Maria clearly is. This is the door which lets Maria and James enter the long hallway that leads out of the hospital. But it is here that Maria dies. They are married and then separated. Essentially, Maria is killed because they went through the door, because they got married. The symbolism of marriage followed so quickly by the death of the wife is very important indeed. Here we have a motif which will become a staple of the end of the game, the descent downwards. The beginning of the game draws comparisons to Dante's Inferno and walking through the gates of hell. Now, we're descending into its bowels, further and further into darkness and unreality. After descending 2 levels, the final level becomes a much longer, impossibly longer, descent into darkness. At the bottom is a red door, leading to a part of the hospital that doesn't exist. Once again, Silent Hill has taken us into a realm of falsehoods and delusions, as James enters a long red hallway that twists and turns beneath the hospital. As soon as James and Maria enter the hallway, they are being followed. Pyramid Head makes a sudden and unannounced return, with no fanfare, no cutscene, literally no warning of his appearance. The player may not even notice him until Maria begins to cry out from being attacked. The 2 characters flee through the hall to an elevator standing at the end. A short cutscene plays showing James making it to the elevator in time, but just as Maria follows after, the door shuts. James manages to keep them partially open, enough for Maria to stick her arm through and cry for his help, but there's nothing he can do. Pyramid Head appears and runs her through, and her body goes limp as she slips away and the door closes. But before the door shuts, what do we see? The moment Maria dies, there's a telling clue as to why she has died. The hand between the doors goes limp and gives the player a clear view of a ring. It is not a coincidence that Maria dies immediately after she and James are married. She dies as a direct consequence of their marriage. James fails to perform his duties as a husband, barreling into the elevator without hesitation. He doesn't wait for her, he doesn't guard her back. His first thoughts are for himself, and only after does he think of her, but by then, it's too late. This self-centered behavior is what doomed Maria and their marriage, and that is a direct reflection upon James and his relationship with Mary. His selfish choice killed her, and he hasn't changed, and so Maria has died too. Only if he finally recognizes his flawed behavior and changes will he be able to protect those he loves. Once again, Pyramid Head is forcefully moving James in the right direction, this time by literally chasing him out of the hospital. Also, by killing Maria, he is making James face the truth. 1, that he hasn't changed, and 2, that Mary is dead and Maria isn't his wife. By taking her away, he takes away James's way of coping and pretending Mary is still around. James, devastated by the loss, falls to the floor of the elevator. We see how deeply he is affected by the loss of Maria. But is it the loss of her, or the loss of his wife? In the end, it's not so much about Maria, but the idea of a loving sexual wife who needs and wants him. This has unsettled him, and it's begun to uproot his delusions. Outside the hospital, James has a line where he almost admits the truth. Mary, is this your way of taking revenge? Way of getting back? In his heart, he knows what he did, but he's not quite ready to face it consciously. Skeletons in the Rain is a fast-paced, pulse-pounding thriller about a former priest who has to uncover the secret identity of a deadly gang leader while confronting his own past. After the death of someone he loved very much, local priest Ishmael Neighbor has vowed to leave the accursed town of San Isidro for good. But the Skulls, a dangerous gang, and their leader the Mime King have other plans for him. They stalk him day and night, asking the same terrifying question. Who? Desperate to escape, the priest soon realizes he needs the help of an old friend who he hasn't spoken to in years, Abraham Perez, the chief of police. The problem is that Ishmael and Abe share more than a broken friendship. A dark secret lies between them, a secret that could get everyone they care about killed. This book is available on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback formats in Spanish and English.